Welcome to Conspiracist.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into a really interesting hypothesis. The idea that governments might have intentionally concealed evidence of, well, celestial prophecy revealed.
Yeah. That's a compelling idea.
We've got a mix of materials to look at, discussions about prophecy and science, astrology, even stuff from online forums and TikTok.
Quite a range.
Exactly. And our goal here is to stay objective, evaluate the evidence, the arguments presented in these sources professionally.
Absolutely. Just unpack what's there.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly is celestial prophecy revealed based on what we've gathered?
Well, looking at the sources, especially some of the online content, it seems pretty tied to specific individuals, people calling themselves celestial or prophet celestial.
Okay, so modern figures online.
Yeah, claiming direct messages or revelations, sometimes mentioning a celestial goddess. It's very much a contemporary framing you find there.
But it's not just that, is it? There's a historical angle, too.
Right. If you look at some of the more academic material, like that thesis on prophecy and cosmology, it connects celestial prophecy historically much more with astrology.
So interpreting star movements, cycles, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Predicting big events based on what's happening in the heavens. So you've got this spectrum, really, from these personal, modern online claims to older traditions rooted in astrology.
That's quite a difference. And this term, revealed, how does that play into it? Some sources seem to link revelation with, maybe unexpectedly, science.
Yeah, that's a fascinating point raised in one of the articles, the one from Reasons to Believe. It talks about how some people interpret scientific discoveries.
Like what, for example?
Well, things like the universe decaying, the second law of thermodynamics, or the whole anthropic principle idea, the universe being fine-tuned for life.
Okay.
Some see these as confirming elements of biblical cosmology, like science itself is revealing truths that align with ancient religious texts.
So science becomes a form of validation, or even revelation.
For some believers, yes. The article suggests testing creation accounts scientifically can actually strengthen faith. It implies this ongoing process of revelation, just through different means, like scientific inquiry.
Interesting. But then we turn to astrology, another system claiming to read the heavens, and the sources seem, well, less convinced.
Oh, much less convinced. The material looking at astrology and science is pretty blunt. It says, basically, that after centuries of testing, astrological predictions haven't proven any better than random chance.
So scientifically, it doesn't hold up.
Not really, no. And it points to psychological reasons why people might still believe things like confirmation bias.
Right, seeing what you want to see.
Exactly. And the Barnum effect, those vague statements that feel really personal, that plays a role too. And even that thesis on prophecy notes that while astrology has this long history with prediction and even millenarianism, the New Age astrology version often shifts focus more towards personal growth, spirituality, less about predicting specific world events and more about inner development. Still uses celestial themes, but the goal is different.
So we have these different streams. Science seen as confirming prophecy for some, astrology largely debunked by science but still holding personal appeal, and then these modern online figures.
Yeah.
How do those online prophets fit in? Are they just rehashing old ideas?
It seems like a bit of a mix, actually. They use terms like celestial prophecy, which definitely echoes historical stuff.
Right.
But the way they use platforms like TikTok, the very direct, personal nature of their claims, that feels very modern.
And they face pushback, too, right? The sources mention accusations of false prophets.
Absolutely, both in the online discussions and referenced in that Reddit thread about identifying false prophets. It shows there's this ongoing debate and skepticism, even within communities that might be open to prophecy.
And that Reddit thread, it brought up the traditional view of prophets, didn't it?
It did. It emphasized the idea that, biblically speaking, prophets often brought messages about repentance, correction, not just good news or vague pronouncements.
Which seems potentially different from some of the online content we might see today.
Potentially, yes. And that contrast is really sharp in that YouTube transcript about the Battle of the False Prophet.
Oh, yeah, that involves someone called Celestial.
Right, exactly. It shows a real contemporary conflict within certain religious circles about who counts as a genuine prophet, especially when they're making these kinds of celestial claims. There's scrutiny.
It's definitely a complex picture. History, science, online culture, religious interpretation, all tangled up. Now, there's one specific celestial prophecy that got a lot of attention and was proven false. Nibiru.
Ah, yes. Planet X.
Our sources tackle that head on.
They do. Both the general overview of the Nibiru cataclysm idea and the article calling it the non-existent planet. It's a really clear example, actually.
Of what specifically?
Of how a claim about a celestial disaster can spread widely, gain traction, even with zero astronomical evidence to back it up.
And it was completely debunked by scientists.
Repeatedly. And importantly, the sources note that conspiracy theories often sprung up around Nibiru.
Involving government cover-ups.
Precisely. Allegations that governments knew about it but were hiding the truth to prevent panic.
Okay, so that connects directly to our main question today, the idea of governments concealing celestial prophecies.
It does. The Nibiru case provides a potential motive for why someone might believe a government would cover something up, avoiding mass panic, social chaos, that sort of thing.
But does the fact that Nibiru was so openly debunked support the concealment idea or undermine it?
That's the tricky part. On one hand, the conspiracy theories exist. On the other, the scientific community was very open in debunking it. That transparency kind of works against the idea of a successful long-term cover-up.
So beyond Nibiru-specific theories, do our other sources give reasons why governments would systematically hide other kinds of celestial prophecy?
Honestly, not really. The main focus in most of these materials isn't on government concealment itself. It's more on, what the prophecies are, why people believe them, and how they stack up against scientific or logical analysis. The Nibiru conspiracy theories seem a bit like an outlier in the broader discussion presented in our sources.
That's a really important point. The concealment idea is present, but maybe not central to the broader phenomenon as described in these materials.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier the difference between science and prophecy. One source really digs into that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how they handle predictions.
Yes, the reasons to believe piece again. It makes a great point about the scientific method.
Which is?
That in science, a wrong prediction isn't necessarily a failure, it's data. It helps you refine your theory, maybe even discard it for a better one. Scientists try to disprove their own ideas, ideally.
Right. Falsification is key.
But with traditional prophecy, if it doesn't happen, it raises questions about the prophet's validity, or maybe the interpretation was wrong. It's a different framework for dealing with being incorrect.
That difference in handling, failure is stark. Science adapts. Prophecy often demands unwavering belief.
It really is, and that probably influences how they're received and scrutinized.
And this ties back to belief itself, doesn't it? Confirmation bias?
Absolutely. One source goes into confirmation bias quite a bit.
Yeah.
Our natural tendency to, look for and believe information that fits what we already think.
Even if there's evidence against it.
Right. It helps explain why beliefs in things like astrology or perhaps certain prophecies can persist even without strong empirical support. Like that Reddit thread on astrology mentioned, people find personal meaning in it.
So the belief might stick around because of psychology, not necessarily because evidence is being hidden.
That seems to be a strong possibility suggested by the sources, yes. These psychological factors seem quite powerful, potentially operating independently of any alleged government action.
Okay. One last area there was that Reddit thread on Richard Carrier's celestial Jesus idea. It's academic, theological. Does it connect here?
I think the connection is more about the method. Carrier's theory, whether you agree with it or not, applies rigorous historical and textual analysis to a foundational religious claim.
Okay, so it's about the level of scrutiny.
Exactly. It's an example of critically examining origins, questioning assumptions, demanding strong evidence for extraordinary claims. That same kind of critical thinking framework is valuable when looking at any big claim, like governments hiding celestial prophecies. It emphasizes needing verifiable proof and logical consistency.
Makes sense. So wrapping this up, we've looked at celestial prophecy from lots of angles: historical astrology, modern online prophets, scientific perspectives, psychological factors, even debunked doomsday predictions like Nibiru, a real tour.
And while the idea of government secrecy pops up, particularly with Nibiru conspiracy theories,
Yeah, it's there in that specific context.
we didn't really find widespread evidence or strong arguments within these specific sources supporting a broad, systematic government concealment of celestial prophecy revealed. No, the focus was much more on the nature of belief, how prophecies are interpreted, the clash with science, and maybe the psychological underpinnings.
It really highlights how humans have always looked to the skies for meaning, hasn't it?
Definitely. That fascination is constant. Whether it's finding scientific patterns that seem to align with old texts, or looking for personal guidance in astrology, or following modern figures online, People connect deeply with the celestial.
And the sources also show there's ongoing skepticism and critical thinking applied to these claims, too.
Absolutely. Which is crucial, really. Evaluating these things with care seems to be a recurring theme.
A really thought-provoking exploration today.
Indeed. Lots to think about.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.